beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 29th June 2023. Report of the Departmental Committee on Lands on its consideration on the National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2022. I beg to lay, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ochanda. Chairperson, Public Debt and Privatization Committee.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 29th June 2023. Report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services Expenditure under the financial year 22-23 Supplementary Budget Estimates 2. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, I'll go back to order number 4 and allow Owen Bayer to present his petition.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the petition regarding delayed adjudication and settlement of residents of Misufini, Vibandana, and Kibarani sublocation, Tezo location, Kilifi North constituency. And before I do that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize the delegation from Kilifi who are visiting the Parliament, and I wish them fruitful deliberation in the House. Thank you. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the residents of Kilifi North constituency, draw the attention of the House to the following. 1, that the people of Misufini, Vibandana, and Kibarani sublocation, Toza location, Kilifi North constituency, have occupied a piece of land registered as plot number 5046/5 in the name of Coast Development Company Limited, measuring 265 acres for more than 50 years. That one of the directors acquired the land at independence from a European known as Lily White, who had initially acquired the same land as leasehold for the term of 99 years from 1st May 1929 with a rent of Kenya shillings 3,760 per annum. That the petitioners are concerned that the leasehold term is almost lapsing and they are fearful of its fate in terms of Article 65(2) of the 2010 Constitution. That one of the directors allowed locals to settle in the area willingly and they were to pay a monthly fee. However, in the year 2010, a committee chaired by one Abdi Makarani entered into an agreement with the Coast Development Company stating that the residents would be required to pay Kenya shillings 20,000 as shares to the said company. Some of the residents paid the 20,000 shillings and were issued with payment receipts. Mr. Speaker, that presently there is no LR 5046/5 as the property was subdivided into 7 portions without the residents' notice, being LR number 5046/8, 5046/9, 5046/10, 5046/11. That plot number 5046/8, measuring 34.4 acres, was subdivided subject to the compulsory acquisition of the property by the government for construction of the Coast Institute of Agriculture, now known as Pwani University. That Coast Development Company submitted an application to the county government of Kilifi seeking an approval for its proposed change of user from agricultural to residential plot number 5046/11. The same was approved on 27th June 2018. That petitioners have written many letters to the National Lands Commission, but no action has been taken concerning the matter. That both the national government and county government have invested heavily in the said piece of land by providing the necessary infrastructure such as electricity connectivity, water, roads, and other social amenities. That the land has not been adjudicated and therefore no title deeds issued. That the matter presented in this petition is not pending before any tribunal, court of law, or independent board. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly through the Public Petitions Committee 1, inquire into the ownership of the land occupied by the residents of Misufini, Vibandana, and Kibarani sublocation, Kilifi North constituency in the name of Coast Development Company. 2, establish whether Coast Development Company is a legally registered company and the number of locals that bought shares in the Coast Development Company and their fate in terms of their shareholding in the company. 3, recommend that the government under the 1 million acre compulsory land acquisition program acquires the land for the local residents and that the land be adjudicated so as to ensure that the residents acquire title deeds. And finally, Mr. Speaker, makes any other recommendations or action it deems fit in addressing the plight of the petitioners. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Baya. When a petition is presented, normally we give a little latitude for members to comment. Minority Leader, are you on the petition?
Thank you
You have the floor.
very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the petition by Honorable Baya is timely. The issue of land is a big problem in this country, and especially the fact that Kenyans in this day and age are still living as squatters, really, on their own land. Mr. Speaker, the mere fact from what I've heard in the petition, the mere fact that those residents have stayed on that land for over 50 years is reason enough for the land to revert to them, really, under the law. The owner, those residents should have acquired that land through adverse possession, Mr. Speaker. Even the idea of a phantom company emerging from the blues and then laying claim to land shouldn't have arisen. These residents should have been given title to this land long time ago. And I think this issue should be addressed expeditiously by the relevant committee. But not only this issue in Kilifi or Kilifi North, it's an issue that is actually the public is facing all over the country, especially the coast and other parts of the country, Mr. Speaker. So I think this petition is merited and should be dealt with expeditiously. I support.
Member for Kamukunji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issue of land is very important. Millions of Kenyans were dispossessed during the colonial period. Until now, there are many thousands of our people who are land poor, living in squalid, miserable conditions in their own land. And I think I support this particular petition because it is righting the wrongs of the past. The communities in those areas were dispossessed. They were made squatters in their own land. And I think it is important for us, now that we're an independent country, to correct some of the mistakes of the past and to empower dispossessed poor people who don't have any voice in our country anymore, because there are some very powerful elements who control the levels of power and legal affairs, as well as the land, and they corrupt the officials involved in this. So I fully support Honorable Owen Baya's petition and the community of the Kilifi. There are a lot of squatters in Kilifi, a lot of squatters in Kwale, a lot of squatters in Taita Taveta. These were people whose land were taken during the colonial period. Independent Kenya should correct and allow those people to own that land. And in this particular case, they are there, they have the documents, their lease and presence should be recognized, and the lease should be extended, and they should be allowed to live freely to cultivate and use that land for their best use. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support this petition by the residents of Misufini, Vibandani, and Kibarani in Kilifi North. Honorable Speaker, first Honorable Speaker, I know this is to go to the Public Petitions Committee, but it's a matter of concern, Speaker, that the chair of the Public Petitions Committee is never in the House.
Who is that?
The Honorable Nimrod Bai. And it defeats purpose, Honorable Speaker, for us to even be ventilating on petitions that are to go to a committee where the chair is forever absent from the House. Honorable Speaker, I think you did direct. Honorable Speaker, I can hear the Honorable
Kandie
shouting from behind.
The chair carries greater responsibility than you as a member. He's even paid for being a chair. And he must be here to listen to members. And as majority goes on, I want to ask the Majority Leader and your counterpart to be reporting to House Business Committee every month on how many petitions have been processed. members of the public come to Parliament out of desperation in some cases.
Yes.
And you cannot receive their petitions and go and sit on them on end.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I'm sure the Honorable Pio and I has heard, and we will act accordingly. But I was just noting as a matter of concern, Honorable Speaker, because it's important that whenever business is being transacted that will appear before a committee, the chair to be present. And I think the chair of this Public Petitions Committee ought to know that under the particular order that we are in, every time the House rises, there will be petitions that may end up in his committee. But, Honorable Speaker, allow me to also note that these cases where a director of a company ends up taking over land, huge tracts of land that belongs to residents of certain areas, is not just in Kilifi. Honorable Speaker, as you will see, this is a matter that began over 50 years ago. And as the case is, everywhere where those who are in positions of authority at independence took advantage of innocent people who sacrificed their lives to get land, Honorable Speaker, including the great people of Kilifi. And, Honorable Speaker, you may imagine it's only the Mau Mau that were involved in the resistance movement against the colonial government. But I know even the likes of Mekatilili wa Menza led the people of Kilifi in fighting for land. And it is therefore a great injustice that 60 years after independence, the people of Kilifi are still landless and squatting on land that is held by those who are in positions of power then, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I do not know who this one director is that is referred to in this petition, unless the Honorable Owen Bayer tells us. But I can bet almost 100%, Honorable Speaker, it is the same people who are in the first government of the independent Kenya, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I said, it's not just in Kilifi. Even in central Kenya and the greater part of what was formerly the White Highlands, land that was productive ended up in the hands of a very few people, Honorable Speaker, at the expense of the millions who sacrificed their lives to fight for independence, largely on the basis of land that had been occupied by our former colonial masters, Honorable Speaker. And therefore imperative that the committee embarks on considering this petition as it considers all the others that have been sent to them. But particularly these ones that touch on land, I want to urge the Public Petitions Committee to take them with the urgency that they deserve, because land is a very, very emotive issue, not just to the people of the coast region, but also to other parts of the country, Honorable Speaker. And I remember, Honorable Speaker, when we were campaigning, we did promise the people of Kilifi and the greater coast region that the issue of absentee landlords must and should be addressed by this administration, and therefore it is imperative also that the committee considers, in view of what the Kenya Kwanza administration promised the people of the coast region, that they will no longer be squatters on their own ancestral land. And this land should go back to its rightful owners, which is the people of Kilifi, and those that are in the Mount Kenya region must also get justice, just like the people of Kilifi. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to support.
Honorable Chonga.
Thank you, Speaker. First of all, before I contribute to the petition, kindly allow me to appreciate the Speaker for Kilifi County Assembly and the delegation that is with him. Speaker, Honorable Teddy was actually a member of this House in the 12th Parliament, and he was a friend to many in this Parliament. So let me appreciate him for that. Mr. Speaker, the petition that has been brought by Honorable Bayer is not unique. If I should go back, Mr. Speaker, I also want to appreciate the statement that is made by the Majority Leader on how these petitions are being handled by the Committee of Petitions. I brought over 6 petitions. Owen Bayer, now being a Minority Leader, is very much in tandem with this because he was in the Committee of Lands. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, nothing has been done about these petitions. It's frustrating, it's demoralizing, and actually, it makes as if you don't know what you're doing. Mr. Speaker, the number of cases of land grabbing at the coast is too immense. Honestly, what is going on right now, people move to Athi House, they get whatever papers, the next day eviction order is on the people who are sitting on that line. It is time, Mr. Speaker, that this House comes up with reasonable laws so that such people can be defended from the agony they undergo from land grabbers, Mr. Speaker. In Kilifi South alone, I think I know of 8 cases which I've already brought here. Time has come. Every human being has a right to live, every human being has a right to own land. But the cases that have been coming of late, from people who are nothing but land grabbers, are making some people to live very uncomfortable lives. Mr. Speaker, I stand and strongly support the petition by Mr. Owen Barr. Thank you.
Honorable members, Bukosa, you will be the last.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to the petition by the member for Kilifi. Just allow me also to join my colleagues to welcome the Speaker of Kilifi County, the Honorable Deti Mwambire, who was in this parliament, in the last parliament, and as Honorable Chonga puts it, he was a friend to many. Honorable Speaker, this petition is very, very important, and I hope that the petition committee will be able to table a report in this House, because matters about land in the coast region, in the Rift Valley, especially in the North Rift, is a very, I would say, a very touchy issue, and it's a very sensitive matter that we are hoping that with the government putting up money to purchase about 1 million acres, I hope that the squatter issue will be sorted out, not just in the coast, but also in the North Rift. And Mr. Speaker, you know you're also one of those people, leaders from Trans Nzoia and Western. And you know the issue of squatters in Trans Nzoia is a very emotive issue that needs to be handled and be resolved once and for all. So I'm hoping that this committee will be able to table a report in this House with good recommendations that have far-reaching effects, not just in the people of Kilifi, but in the whole of our country. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to support the petition.
Thank you. The petition stands committed to the Committee on Public Petitions, and they have to finish their work in 60 days. Oh, now that is the original Karemba that this House knows, yes. Thank you. Before we go to the next order, honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the presence in the public and speakers gallery of the following visitors: Shakaina Presbyterian Primary School from Juja, Kiambu; Good Samaritan Secondary School from Mwea, Kirinyaga; Orero Boys High School from Rangwe, Homa Bay; Anzila Catholic Academy from Kesesi, Uasin Gishu; Restoration Education Center from Dagoret North, Nairobi. Then there is a CBO from the Community Action for Teenage Pregnancy. The CBO has organized a visit for the following schools in a bid to develop the leadership skills and exposure for the youth involved in their programs: Dandora Secondary School, Parkview Schools, St. Mary's Kibuk Secondary School, Ushirika Secondary School, Kangema High School, Terminus Adventist School, James Gishuru Primary School, Prince of Peace Secondary School, Giashuki Boys High School, Ishagaki Boys High School, Aquinas High School, Waithaka Boys High School, St. Patrick's Boys High School, St. Clair Gatitu Girls High School, Maseno School, Gibudha Girls High School, Kinyui Boys High School, Dandora High School, Rushu Girls High School, and Gachoire Girls High School. You are all welcome to the House of Parliament, and on behalf of myself and the House, we welcome you to feel free in the chamber. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Peter Nabulindo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that commercial sugarcane production in Kenya was introduced in the years of independence with an aim of eliminating dependence on sugar importation and contributing to economic transformation in the sugar belt and the country at large through agriculture, acknowledging that at its pinnacle, the sugar industry significantly contributed to the country's national gross domestic product, GDP, and became one of the largest employers which supported livelihoods of many Kenyans, both directly and indirectly. Concerned that over the last 25 years, sugarcane farming, particularly in Western Kenya, has been declining significantly, thereby dipping sugar production from over 600,000 metric tons per year in the 1990s to less than 3,000 metric tons in recent years. Noting that the decline in sugarcane farming has forced local millers to operate far below their milling capacities and pushed the country to over-rely on net importation of sugar, which negatively impacts on the balance of trade, noting that the decline in sugar production is attributable to factors such as mismanagement, interference, and unfair competition from cheap imported sugar. Further concerned that state-owned sugar millers like Umia Sugar Company and Zoya Sugar Company ceased milling while owing farmers hundreds of millions of shillings. Appreciating that the government has been putting in place strategies, policies, and regulations to define roles of millers and major players and stakeholders in the sugar industry in a bid to revamp the sector. Concerned that the acute shortage of sugarcane resulting from mass abandonment of sugarcane farming continues to roll back initiatives for reviving sugar milling. Recognizing that further investment in revamping sugar companies before reviving sugarcane farming would occasion loss of the invested public funds instead of yielding success. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, reviews the sugar development policies to provide that every investor miller sets aside definite funds for development of sugarcane farming, incentivizing farmers to embrace sugarcane growing and to enhance cane production in each of the respective zones. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have a second one, Mr. Speaker.
Second one, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That, aware that Article 43, Section 1 of the Constitution entitles every person to the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services. Further aware that every year an estimated 14,000 children born in Kenya suffer from sickle cell and hemophilia diseases, with the highest prevalence rate being within Western, Nyanza, and coastal regions. Concerned that failure to undertake sickle cell and hemophilia screening at birth hinders timely administration of appropriate treatment and other mitigation measures to forestall high infant mortality caused by preventable diseases like malaria. Cognizant that national population surveys does not include data on sickle cell and hemophilia diseases, concerned that the dearth of data and information negatively hinders prioritization of resources and implementation of sickle cell disease management programs. Recognized that the number of infant deaths caused by the disease continues to grow as a result of underfunding due to lack of data on the number of cases of the killer disease. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Health and in conjunction with the county governments, conducts awareness and sensitization programs on sickle cell and hemophilia diseases and supports research and training for medical personnel on the two diseases. And B, puts in place measures for mandatory screening of newborns in sickle cell and hemophilia diseases in all public health facilities in the country in order to create a database to guide funding and other interventions aimed at curbing the diseases and reducing infant mortalities resulting from the diseases. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Nabilindo. Honorable Bernard Kitur. Bernard Kitur.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 33-1, I seek leave for the adjournment of the House for purposes of discussing a matter of urgent national importance regarding the ongoing incidences of insecurity in Lamu County. Honorable Speaker, the country has been witnessing attacks by suspected terror groups and clandestine armed gangs in certain parts of the country, particularly in Lamu and Garissa counties. Recently, innocent residents of Salama and Juhudi villages in Lamu County were treated to heinous and brutal attacks that have caused anxiety to grip them and other Kenyans at large with regard to safety of the country. The terror groups also attacked Kenya Defense Forces troops using improvised explosive devices, commonly known as IED. Honorable Speaker, about 5 or so innocent or more innocent lives of locals and two officers of the Kenya Defense Forces lost their lives, that is at least as per the press, lost their lives due to attacks, while several others suffered injuries of varying degrees. Residents in the affected areas remain tense due to the fear of recurrent attacks, which is interrupting the social and economic order of their lives and rolling back the gains made in bolstering social economic development. There is therefore an urgent need for this House to discuss the matter with a view to charting a way forward on how to better equip KDF and other security agencies in order to bring to an end these attacks and secure the well-being of the residents. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek leave for adjournment of the House to discuss this matter of great national concern. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kitur, for your motion to get the nod of the House. You need 20 members to stand in your support. The support is overwhelming. I will direct that this motion will be debated from 5:30 today. Members, you may take your seats. 5:30. Chair, Public Debt and Privatization Committee.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the Consolidated Fund Services expenditures under the financial year 22-23, supplementary budget estimates 2, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 29th June 2023. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Hold. Yes, Kamket.
Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of this parliament, you made an order that bills that had lapsed be reintroduced, and that such bills can skip even the first reading, the rigorous first reading. Mr. Speaker, I had a bill, I am among those members who had a bill, the Equalization Fund bill. And I wrote to Mr. Speaker, and I'm worried about the fate of this bill. Looks like the Committee on Finance is either sitting on it, or I do not know what they want to do with that very important enabling legislation, Mr. Speaker. Could I ask, Mr. Speaker, that you help me intervene in that matter, Mr. Speaker?
Chair of Finance, are you dealing with the bill the member for Tiati is asking about?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, we did receive the bill from the Honorable Kamket. It is one of the bills that the Committee of Finance and National Planning is processing, and he should certainly be hearing from us in the next, before the end of 14 days.
Okay, thank you. Kamket, I hope your affairs are allayed. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Do we have any? Yeah? Majority Leader, your usual Thursday's statement.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 27th June 2023, to prioritize the business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, yesterday, Wednesday, 28th June 2023, was a public holiday marking Eid ul-Adha, and I would like to convey my belated wishes to our Muslim brothers and sisters, some of whom are still observing the holiday today. Honorable Speaker, due to the public holiday yesterday, the appearance by the Cabinet Secretaries that had been scheduled for yesterday has been deferred to next week. Therefore, in accordance with the provision of Standing Order 42A, 5, and 6, I wish to convey the following Cabinet Secretaries are scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 5th July 2023, to respond to questions as follows. The Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation to appear to respond to the following questions. One question by private notice, number 007 of 2023, by the member for Alego Usonga constituency, the Honorable Samuel Atandi, MP, regarding the collapsing dikes around Lake Kanyaboli, which have resulted in flooding of the area and displacement of people. Question number 158 of 2023, by the member for Ikolomani constituency, Honorable Bernard Shinali, MP, regarding the implementation of the Moyes Bridge, Matunda Water Supply and Sanitation Project. 3, question number 159 of 2023, by the member for Turkana Central, Honorable Joseph Emade, MP, regarding the status of Naoros and Nadoto irrigation scheme in Turkana County. And 4, question number 247 of 2023, by the member for Rongo constituency, the Honorable Paul Abur, MP, regarding the stalling of Rongo Town Water Supply Project. 2, Honorable Speaker, is the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection to appear to respond to the following questions. Question number 088 of 2023, by the member for Konoin constituency, Honorable Brighton Yagon, MP, regarding the welfare of Kenyans working in Saudi Arabia and efforts geared towards regulated licensing of recruiting agencies. 2, question number 089 of 2023, by the member for Yata constituency, the Honorable Basil Robert, MP, regarding incorporation of senior citizens into the older persons cash transfer scheme. 3, question number 090 of 2023, by the member for Konoin constituency, Honorable Brighton Yagon, MP, regarding formulation policy framework to support children whose parents or guardians are incarcerated. 4 is question number 091 of 2023, by the member for Machakos County, Honorable Joyce Kamene, MP, regarding the plight of orphans, widows, and widowers in the country. 5, question number 092 of 2023, by the member for Kirinyaga County, the Honorable Jane Jerry Maina, MP, regarding the effectiveness of Inua Jamii program since its inception. and 6, question number 160 of 2023 by the member for Kiambu constituency, the Honorable John Mashua Waithaka MP, regarding eligibility of cancer survivors being registered as persons with disabilities. C, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development to appear to respond to the following questions. Question number 084 of 2023 by a member for Mwingi Central constituency, the Honorable Gideon Muliungi, MP, regarding errors in title deeds for parcels of land in Moi Coal Basin. Question number 085 of 2023 by the member for Mwingi Central constituency, Honorable Gideon Muliungi, MP, regarding the high-mast security lighting project in Mwingi Town. 3, question number 086 of 2023 by the member for Saboti constituency, Honorable Caleb Amisi, MP, regarding ownership status of the parcel of land LR number 5004/30/R, currently occupied by Kuala International Sugar Company. 4, question number 087 by the member for Laisamis constituency, the Honorable Joseph Lekuton, MP, regarding review of boundaries bordering Laisamis constituency. 5, question number 109 of 2023 by the member for Nakuru Town East, the Honorable David Gikaria, MP, regarding Kazim Taani Project Phase 3. And finally, question number 117 of 2023 by the member for Embakasi West, Honorable Mark Mwenje, MP, regarding status of ownership of land popularly referred to as MCO in Molem Ward in Embakasi West constituency. Honorable Speaker, members will also note that today's order paper includes a motion proposing an alteration of the House calendar for the second session. It seeks to vary the period of the short recess so that it commences next week on Friday, 7 July 2023, instead of Friday, 13th July 2023 as planned. Honorable Speaker, without preempting debate, I urge all members and committees to conclude any urgent matters before them and ensure that there is smooth transaction of House business before the recess begins. Honorable Speaker, with regards to the business for Tuesday next week, the House is expected to undertake second reading of the following bills, should they not be reached today. 1, the National Rating Bill of 2022. 2, the Conflict of Interest Bill of 2023. 3, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill of 2023. And 4, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill of 2022. Debate will also be undertaken on the following motions, should they not be concluded today. 1, ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. 2, the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations of 2023. 3, ratification of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. 4, the Defense Cooperation Agreement between the Government of Kenya and the Government of Seychelles. 5, report on the Consolidated Fund Services expenditures under the financial year 2023-2024 budget estimates. And 6, report of the Kenyan delegation on the Parliamentary Dialogue on United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, and Global Parliamentarians Against Corruption, GOPAC, Annual General Meeting. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene again on Tuesday, 4th July 2023 to schedule the business for the rest of the week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House, and my apologies for it being too long today.
Next order. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Order number 8, motion, ratification of the amended Nairobi Convention and the Protocol for the Protection of Marine and Coastal Environment of the Western Indian Ocean from land-based sources and activities. Question to be put.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, I now put the question to order number 8, that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining on its consideration of the ratification of the amended Nairobi Convention and the Protocol for the Protection of Marine and Coastal Environment of the Western Indian Ocean from land-based sources and activities, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 4th May 2023, and pursuant to the provision of Section 8(4) of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, approves the ratification of the amended Nairobi Convention and the Protocol for the protection of marine and coastal environment of the Western Indian Ocean from land-based sources and activities. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, ratification of the Kigali Amendment on the Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete the ozone layer. Question to be put.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I now put the question to order number 9, that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining on its consideration of the ratification of the Kigali Amendments on the Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete the ozone layer, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 4th May 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8(4) of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, and approves the ratification of the Kigali Amendment on the Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete the ozone layer. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, alteration of the calendar of the House.
Majority Leader. Majority Leader.
Order number 10.
Yes, you are on order number 10.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I was speaking to the chair of the Public Petitions Committee. He has heard you and heard me from wherever he was.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, allow me to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28(4), this House resolves to alter its calendar for the second session, regular sessions, as adopted on Wednesday, 15 February 2023, by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session, so that A, the short recess commences on Friday, 7th July 2023, and ends on Monday, 24th July 2023, and B, the House resumes regular sittings on Tuesday, 25th July 2023, to continue with the second part of the session. Honorable Speaker, as the motion says, we want to vary our calendar in line with what we agreed in the House Business Committee on Tuesday of this week. We were to commence our regular sittings short recess, the 1-week short recess from the 14th, which is the other week. And the House Business Committee approved that we bring this motion to bring that recess forward to the 7th of July. Appreciating, Honorable Speaker, that the National Treasury has been able to disburse 100% of the GAF funds and almost 90% of NGCDF, and I think they should be completing, if not complete, I think they have completed even NGCDF. And for the first time before the end of a financial year, all disbursements for NGCDF, even amidst the difficulties that have been there in terms of raising revenues, they have worked hard to disburse this money, and I'm sure the NGCDF board is now in the process of disbursing that money to constituencies. Honorable Speaker, appreciating that members of Parliament, when there are regular sittings of the House, except probably myself and the Honorable KJ, and a few other members who don't have the rare privilege of enjoying any mileage claims. But we enjoy the rare privilege also of being able to access our constituencies even at the time the House is sitting. Members may not have a lot of time to engage with the members of the public, especially this being at the beginning of a new financial year. And as the leaders in their constituencies, and Honorable Speaker, you know, these members of Parliament have no role now in CDF. They are not patrons of CDF. They don't administer the fund. They don't implement it. They are strangers in CDF committees. But they have a huge responsibility to ensure that, one, they are oversighting the implementation of those projects. And especially at a time like now when money is released in huge tranches, many of fund managers back in our constituencies, knowing there is no meaningful oversight on the ground, may take advantage, and members will find their CDF money is being misused or misappropriated. And you know, when CDF money is misappropriated in your constituency, the media will not mention the fund manager or the committee. They will say the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wa's constituency or the Honorable Robert Bui's constituency, money has been stolen. And they make it look like it is a member of parliament. So it's important that members of parliament get time off the regular sittings to go and shepherd the meaningful oversight of the implementation of projects in NGCDF and GAF for our gracious women reps. Two, Honorable Speaker, at the beginning of a new financial year, we are required to submit new proposals, or NGCDF committees are to submit new proposals. These proposals, as provided for in the Constitution, need to have gone through some form of public participation. And it is meaningful and active public participation. And that public participation can only be meaningful if the leaders in the constituencies, being the members of parliament, are there to lead and offer guidance to members of the public to be able to ensure that even in the next financial year, projects that are proposed by your committees and forwarded to the national board are projects that address the real, genuine concerns of the people on the ground and not the wishes of a few people who sit in our CDF committees. It was therefore found in the wisdom of the House Business Committee that we take this recess, we make it 2 weeks, so that we use that time, and also allow a number of committees that have not had time to sit when the House is sitting to also finalize many of the reports that are pending before committees, Honorable Speaker. With those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, allow me to request the Honorable Leader of Minority, who is also a member of the House Business Committee, the Honorable Pio Wandai, and member for Parliament for Gunja, to second, but to also caution him that because this recess is starting on July 7th, that we are not giving you time to do other things other than go to Gunja. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, allow me to ask the Leader of Minority to second. And I beg to move.
Honorable Sirma, who do you want to inform? He is finished. He has finished his contribution. Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to inform the Majority Leader that all the amounts due for members of Parliament, yes, for NGCDF, has been released by Treasury, and they are heading to their constituencies as by tomorrow, all the money will be in their accounts. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to,
Wandai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Honorable Chunga was opening a Pandora's box in his closing remarks, but I will avoid that route for now. Mr. Speaker, I must also appreciate that today I've been able to set my eyes on the chair for public petitions. I've never had a chance to see him physically in this house. Chair, Honorable Mbai, today I've seen you. I'm very happy. I just wish that you continue becoming available and consulting with my office, because it's important that chairs also consult with my office, especially on issues of public importance such as public petitions. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me second the motion by basically echoing the words of the Honorable Chungwa, that this short recess is timely, it's very timely, Mr. Speaker. And I must thank the House Business Committee for having exercised its discretion to revise the calendar of the House to accommodate the need for members to be with their constituents, especially now that the financial year has come to an end. So, Speaker, the importance of the NGCDF can never be overemphasized. And it is also true, Mr. Speaker, that in many instances, many MPs who have been able to make it back to this House once, twice, or more times have been able to do so on account of how well their constituency CDF committees have managed those funds, Mr. Speaker. And the MPs, in the course of their day-to-day oversight and representation roles, have got a duty to ensure that these funds are utilized appropriately. Mr. Speaker, the national government CDF funds are some of the decentralized funds that have had the greatest possible impact at the grassroots. And therefore, I am pleased to learn that today the National Treasury has been able to disburse all the funds due in this financial year, which we are ending tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I must thank members, honorable members, for having exerted this pressure from across the political divide. Because without that pressure, this money wouldn't have come, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you. From past experience, we have never had the opportunity to have these monies disbursed before the close of the financial year. Now, this is a first one on account of the pressure that has been exerted by members of this House. So that pressure must continue, so that even as we start a new financial year, these disbursements must be made on timely basis, so that these monies can be used to do the work they are meant to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we embark on the new financial year, I also hope that members of this House will guide their constituents accordingly in prioritizing new projects. And as we do so, let us also empower these constituency oversight committees, which under the current Act have a role to play in oversighting these funds. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, and those of us who are here for the first time, that if these funds are utilized prudently, there are very, very high chances that you will make it back to this House. But if by any chance these funds are misappropriated, you will be basically digging a political, grave, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must say that as we embark on this new journey of coming up with the new projects for the new financial year, let us take it upon ourselves to ensure that this NGCDF is ring-fenced further and further. This NGCDF must be ring-fenced by whatever means possible. For some of us, this is the only fund we can talk of. This is the only fund you can be sure of, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes I wonder, this idea of MPs developing a habit of disturbing State House for development, I don't know where it comes from. Yet the development you can count and you can touch is that which comes from the utilization of NGCDF funds. So stop disturbing State House with endless visits. MPs from especially my side of the political divide. Stop wasting your time queuing at State House looking for so-called development, yet you have got an opportunity to develop your constituency using the NGCDF funds, which are being managed by your own committees, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I wish to second, and in response to Honorable Chepkonga's remarks, reiterate that development is not found in State House. Development is budgeted for in this House. And NGCDF is such development that needs to be utilized appropriately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Thank you, Honorable Minority Leader. Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28.4, order, honorable members, order. Take your seats. This House resolves to alter its calendar for the second session, regular sessions, as adopted on Wednesday, 15th February 2023 by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session so that A, the short recess commences on Friday, 7th July 2023 and ends on Monday, 24th July 2023, and B, the House resumes regular sittings on Tuesday, 25th July 2023 to continue with the second part of the session. And I put the question, members? Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28.4, this House resolves to alter its calendar for the second session, regular sessions, as adopted on Wednesday, 15th February 2023, by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session, so that A, the short recess commences on Friday, 7th July 2023, and ends on Monday, 24th July 2023, and B, the House resumes regular sittings on Tuesday, 25th July 2023, to continue with the second part of the session. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Before you call the next order, allow me to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of St. Teresa's Girls Secondary School, Samburu East, Samburu, Bwake Boys Secondary School from Cherengani, Trans Nzoia. On your behalf and on my own behalf, I welcome the schools and those accompanying them to the House of Parliament. Next order.
Order number 11, special motion. Consideration of a nominee for appointment as a member of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Labor. Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg your indulgence. We consulted with the chair, and because he was rushing somewhere, he requested that you indulge him and allow this business on order number 12 to be rescheduled to sometime next week, Tuesday
Order
next
number
week.
11.
Yes, 11, sorry. So that we move to order number 12.
Okay. Order number 11 is stepped down as requested. Next order.
Order number 12, special motion. Consideration of a nominee for appointment as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation.
Chair Finance. Yes, Honorable Ichungwa. Sorry, Honorable Junet Mohammed.
Mr. Speaker, I am not disagreeing with the request of the majority leader, but I wanted clarity, Mr. Speaker, whether it is procedural to step down an order just like that. It's only, Mr. Speaker, there is a way to do it. Not if first the chair of the committee is not there, he has not given valid reasons to the House why we should step it down. The authority to step it down only rests with the Speaker, and it's the Speaker who can do it on his own motion, Mr. Speaker, that I am rescheduling or reorganizing the order paper. Mr. Speaker, you know, if it becomes the norm, tomorrow another chair will just stand up there and request you, Mr. Speaker, I have some urgent matter in Garissa, can you just step down for me? This is a house of procedure, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Junet, I fully agree with you, only that you are not privy to the fact that there was prior consultation between the majority leader and the chair. So when he stood up to speak, the chair was privy to what he was saying. And I had acceded to the stepping down of the order on account that the chair is unavailable this afternoon. So it will be on the order paper next week on Tuesday. Chair Finance.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 27th of June, 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 215(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, that this House approves the appointment of CPA Mary A.C. Wanyonyi as the chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Honorable Speaker, Article 215(2) of the Constitution requires that a chairperson shall be nominated by His Excellency the President and approved by the National Assembly for the appointment as chairperson for the Commission on Revenue Allocation. The term of the chairperson of Commission on Revenue Allocation ended on the 28th of February 2023. Article 250C of the Constitution, as read together with Section 9(2) of the Commission on Revenue Allocation Act, provides that persons appointed as members and chairperson of the Commission shall serve for a period of 6 years and will not be eligible for reappointment. Honorable Speaker, on Tuesday, the 6th of June 2023, and pursuant to Article 215(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, number 33 of 2011, and standing under 45(1), the Honorable Speaker notified the National Assembly of the nomination of CPA Mary Andeo Wanyonyi Chebukati by His Excellency the President for approval for the appointment as a chairperson for the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Subsequently, the name of the nominee, her curricula vitae, and reports of the selection panel on her recruitment were committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for approval, hearing, and reporting to the House. Honorable Speaker, in compliance with Article 118(b) of the Constitution and Section 6(4) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, number 33 of 2011, the committee placed an advertisement in the print media on Tuesday, the 14th of June 2023, informing the members of the public on the nomination, the date, and place for the approval hearing. Honorable Speaker, the committee also invited the public to submit memoranda on the suitability of the nominee in conformity with Section 6(9) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act. However, Honorable Speaker, by the close of business on Wednesday, 21st of June 2023, the committee received no memoranda or affidavit contesting the suitability of the nominee by the set deadline. Further, the committee also requested information regarding the nominee from the Kenya Revenue Authority, EACC, DCI, Higher Education Loans Board, ORPP, on her suitability to hold public office. It is instructive to note, Honorable Speaker, that the nominee did get clearance from all the said agencies. Honorable Speaker, the nominee appeared before the committee on Thursday, the 22nd of June 2023 at 11:30 a.m. for vetting, and she examined for her vetting examination based on the criteria set out in Section 6 of the Commission on Revenue Allocation Act of 2011 and Section 7 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act. In addition, Honorable Speaker, the committee examined her academic credentials, relevant experience, knowledge of sector issues, and matters of leadership and integrity. The committee paid due regard to the procedure used to arrive at the nominee. And Honorable Speaker, we have attached the Public Service Commission report. Any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the office in question and the suitability of the nominee for the appointment proposed having regard to whether the nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities meet the needs of the Commission. Honorable Speaker, CPA Mary Andeo Wanyonyi Chebukati is a Kenyan citizen, bearer of identity card number 1809617, and was born in Bungoma County in 1962. Honorable Speaker, CPA Mary Andeo started her education at St. George's Primary School, Nairobi, and later proceeded to Kenya High School, where she attained her CPE and KCE in 1974 and 1978, respectively. Honorable Speaker, the nominee pursued her A-levels from 1979 to 1980 at Kireri Girls High School, and thereafter proceeded to Punjab University, where she graduated in 1984 with a bachelor's degree. The nominee, Honorable Speaker, further proceeded to Eastern and South African Management Institute, Sami University, in Arusha, Tanzania, where she enrolled for a MBA, consequently graduating in the year 2014. Honorable Speaker, CPA Mary Andeo Wanyonyi is a certified public accountant with good standing with the Institute of Certified Public Accountants. She is also a financial analyst and a certified professional mediator. And for all these qualifications, she has good standing with the respective professional bodies. She's also tax compliance with the tax compliance certificate being issued by the Kenya Revenue Authority. On her work experience, Honorable Speaker, CPA Mary started her career as an accountant in 1985, starting off at the office of the Vice President in the Ministry of Home Affairs before she was promoted to an accountant one at the Ministry of Supply and Marketing in 1989. Honorable Speaker, it was interesting to note one of our members of our committee, one CPA Oyula, who was then the Paymaster General, was one of the referees of CPA Mary because she was then her junior accountant when CPA Oyula served as the Paymaster General at the Treasury. Honorable Speaker, she then was promoted to an acting principal accountant at the Ministry of Finance, later worked as a district accountant, Kwale District Treasury, and deputy district accountant at Mombasa District Treasury between 1998 and 2012. After that, she was promoted to become the chief accountant or the deputy head of accounting unit department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a position she served between 2011 and 2012. Further, Honorable Speaker, between 2012 and 2016, she was promoted to serve as an acting assistant accounting general, a head of training and secretariat at the corporate governance subcommittee of the Public Service Center Public Service Accountant Standards Board, and that is between 2012 to 2016. She later proceeded to work as an assistant accountant general, head of accounting unit department at the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum between 2016 and 2018. And up to the time of her appointment, Honorable Speaker, she was serving as a senior deputy accountant general in the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, a position now she has held until 2019, Honorable Speaker. We were keen to note that the nominee is a receiver of several awards, first of them being a second runners-up for public sector awards. She also got the ISPAC Fire Award for 2007 for leading the State Department to be tax compliant. And 2019, she was among the top 5 her agency was among the top 5 agencies that were awarded an award by His Excellency the President for the highest amount of VAT collected. Honorable Speaker, during the vetting exercise, it was an interesting discussion came up that CPA Mary A.C. Wanyonyi, when her name was brought as appointment as the chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, most of the reports that were done in the media was relation to that of her spouse. Of course, a commonly known name in every household in Kenya, the chair of IEBC, Mr. Chebukati. Honorable Speaker, it was quite a unique time we had as a committee, because at one we were like, should we really go into the issue of who someone is married to or who someone is a spouse to when you're looking at the academic qualifications? And of course, CPA Mary took up the task and went to explain how throughout her very well-decorated career of 37 years, as I have read out to you and as a committee was able to establish, the issue of who she was married to was never a point of discussion. It was only until that she was nominated for the position of chairperson for Commission of Revenue Allocation that the question of who her spouse is came into discussion. And of course, it was very unfair to see people trash her curriculum vitae and the many years of hard work she put both in public service and in pursuing her academic qualifications, being a certified public accountant, being a financial analyst, holding a bachelor's degree in commerce and a master's degree, and the discussion became who was she married to. And maybe this House, Honorable Speaker, needs to ask ourselves whether we accord the same treatment when we are vetting the male that come to this House, or when we vet any male candidates in any particular position. Does anybody care whose wife someone, whose husband someone is when they get appointed? So why the double standards when it is professional, qualified, experienced women of this country, then the question of who their spouse is comes to play. However, Honorable Speaker, CPA Mary Wanyonyi was proud to be a wife, to be a mother, and she said even if it portrayed her, or whatever was said, she would still choose that gentleman as her husband. And I was like, that is how our women should be proud of their husbands. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House approves the appointment of CPA Mary A.C. Wanyonyi as a chairperson for Commission on Revenue Allocation, and do ask the Vice Chair of the Committee of Finance and National Planning, the Honorable Ambassador Langat, to second. With that, I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mani, who is seconding?
Vice Chair.
Okay, Vice Chair. Give, okay. Benja?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do not want to belabor the points that the chairman has already put across to the House, but I want to confirm, Mr. Speaker, that CPA Mary is one of those very qualified persons in the Republic, and she has a very good track record of public service, actually proven track record of public service, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say she's qualified, and I want to ask the House to approve so that she can start working for this country. Mr. Speaker, I second.
Thank you, Honorable Langat. Order, Honorable Members. Order, Honorable Members. Order, take your seats. Honorable Members, I now propose the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27 June 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 215(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of CPA Mary A.C. Wanyonyi as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Can we put the question, members? Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27 June 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 215(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of CPA Mary A.C. Wanyonyi as a chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, allow me, before I go to the next order, to acknowledge the following schools in the speakers and public gallery. Moi Girls Kamsinga from Kimilili in Bungoma County. Tinga Tinga Primary School, Kiambu in Kiambu. Kimuka Primary School, Kajiado West, Kajiado. Ayebu Primary School teachers from Baringo North, Baringo. St. Mary's Cabernet Primary School, Baringo Central, Baringo. Immaculate Heart School, Butula in Busia. Honorable members, on your behalf and on my own behalf, I welcome the teachers and the students in the House of Parliament. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 13, motion.
Order. Yes, McClap, what is it? Before I go to the next order, give him the microphone. Is it because Baringo was mentioned?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Then
allow me.
Welcome everybody else.
Yes, allow me, Mr. Speaker, to join you in welcoming the teachers of Ayuba High School, the students of Ayuba Primary, the students from Cabernet, the students from Kamusinga, and all parts of the country that you actually mentioned, Mr. Speaker, that the Ayuba teachers are actually a public primary school, which was the best primary school in my constituency, Mr. Speaker. And those teachers, Mr. Speaker, together with others, actually mentored us into politics. They first elected me as their chairman of KNUT and elected a man behind me here, Honorable Kamuren, as their secretary at the same time. Mr. Speaker, they have produced leaders who are in this house, and we want to thank the teachers of Kenya for working hard to remove ignorance from our children so that they become serious Kenyans like us, members of parliament who are here, Mr. Speaker. I join you and say thank you and continue doing a good job for the country. And even if they were hit by housing levy, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure them that this government, with equal measure, will also cushion them so that they have a better salaries and better allowances for the teachers of Kenya so that they work for our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, McClub. Next order.
Order number 13, motion. Ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of the transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa.
On the request of the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining, orders number 13 and 14 will be, and 15, will be stepped down to appear on the order paper next week on Tuesday. Next, order number 14.
Order number 14, motion. Consideration of the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations 2023.
Chairperson, Committee on Delegated Legislation. Is that Chepkonga? Are you ready?
No, I'm ready, Chair. I'm ready, Speaker. Yes. You know, the only thing, Speaker, is that we should be given notice when there's intention to step down certain motions in the standing order, so that I can prepare. But you know, as you know, lawyers are always ready.
You must be like the 5 clever girls in the Bible.
Except that
there were 10. 5 were foolish, 5 were clever.
Yes, it is.
So you
true.
must always choose which one you want to be.
No, Mr. Speaker, I carried 3/4 of the oil.
So you're half clever.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee of Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations 2023, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 21st June 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24, Subsection 4 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations published as legal notice number 58 of to salaries pursuant to the participation of our troops in various missions has always been paid to the consolidated fund. And it has been very difficult for the Ministry of Defense to support the operations of our troops in those countries because we have to appropriate that money that has been paid to the consolidated fund to the peace missions that we are participating in. So as to streamline this process, Madam Speaker, it was agreed that a fund be created specifically to deal with this operation that our troops will be participating in. And so, in the regulations, the National Peace Support Operations Fund has been put in place so that government contributes or allocates 1 billion shillings to the fund. And there is also an amount of 6 billion shillings that will be received from the participation or salaries that are paid to our troops that are participating by the United Nations. The second thing that this fund intends to achieve, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that the equipment that we supply to our troops are in working conditions. Members may not be aware that most of the countries that have contributed troops to peace missions send brand new equipments together with their troops. And you know, one of the things that United Nations pays for, it pays for the equipment that are contributed to the peace missions, Madam Speaker. And if the equipment remains unserviceable, that equipment will not be paid for the period in which it remains idle. And so what that means, Madam Speaker, is that the country will be losing revenue that it would have received if we had good working equipment that our troops would be available to our troops. And so one of the things that this fund intends to do is to provide or to kit our troops with modern equipment, working equipment, so that they are paid for the period in which the troops are deployed in the countries in which our country participates in. And so that is the main import. The rest of the regulations, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that the fund is operated, it deals with the governance issues of the fund. And so that the fund is operated in such a way that it can be audited by the Auditor General, and it follows all the procedures that deal with Public Finance Management Act. And so that it is a very short regulation that ensures that our troops are well kitted, they are well provided for, that we do not suffer the consequences of not being paid monies, yet we have deployed the troops, Madam Speaker. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I move, and I would like to request the Honorable Bashir, who was formerly a major in the army, and he participated in a number of peacekeeping operations, to second this motion. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand here to second the motion. As has been said by the chair, this is a special kitty that has never existed before in our country, and I think it's now that time that we have this Peace Support Operations Fund. And the main reason is that we lose a lot in terms of the funds that are reimbursed from peace support operations that gets back to the country but not accounted for. What this peace support fund will do is that it ring-fences all reimbursements that we get from peace support operations. Remember that whatever that will be paid to this fund will still be utilized for peace support operations. At the moment, we have issues of the kind of equipment that we supply and we use in peace support operations. Some of them might not be very effective, might not be serviceable, and what the UN or the peace support missions do is that they will reimburse you in terms of how serviceable your equipment is and how many personnel you have taken for that particular peace support operation. So if your equipment is not serviceable, then there's a certain percentage that you get. But now that we have this kind of peace support operation fund, we are able to take serviceable equipment so that we can get 100% reimbursement. What this also will mean is that the fund will take care of troops as they go out there in the field, equipment that will be laid out there in the field, and that the serviceability of this equipment will be taken care of using this fund. The current situation is that they rely on any amount of money from the exchequer, and which sometimes and most of the time is not forthcoming. But with this fund that is ring-fenced will be used specifically for peace support operations. It will be used to ensure that the equipment that we take to these peace support operations areas are serviceable and 100%. Whenever you take equipment that is serviceable, you get something commensurate to that particular equipment that you have taken. Now that we have saying that this peace support fund, that the Kenya government guarantees 1 billion and 6 billion will be reimbursed by the peace support operations activities and mainly by the UN, then we are talking about a 7 billion fund that is revolving that will be used to ensure that our activities in peace support operations are well taken care of. So I think this is a good idea. We have looked at it from all angles and find it fit so that we have this fund. I second.
Honorable members, sorry, I was slightly distracted by the chairperson. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations 2023, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 21st June 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24(4) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund Regulations published on as legal notice number 58 of 2023. What is your point?
Madam Speaker, you had allowed me to lay some papers and to move a motion with regard to the paper that I had requested for permission to do so. When will be ready? Can I do so? Just hold on. Just hold on. It is still the business of the committee. It's not different. It's the same committee on delegated legislation. Yes, it is business. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 29 June 2023.
To make his point of order, there, I've given you the mic.
Yeah, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the chair has moved a motion for the regulations of the peace. It was seconded. You put the question. This is the time for members to contribute, and we dispense off with that agenda. Then after that, he can table whatever he wants to table. Madam Speaker, this is a house of procedure. You can't say, we have come here to contribute to your motion, and then you want to table other document. Give us time. We dispense off with the issue of the fund. Then you can table other document. So, Madam Speaker, unless the chairman has extra powers to move a motion, put the question, then present papers. Then after that, he closes the debate himself. If that's the case, then we just go home and rest. We go sleep.
Honorable Junet, he was just on a point of order. We hadn't even heard what he was going to say. You're speculating. You want to proceed, Honorable Chepkonga? Yes.
Madam Speaker, you know, I had requested the substantive speaker, and he told me whenever you will be ready, because it is an important paper to lay. Just purely to lay, Madam Speaker. Honorable Junet, if you had allowed me just 2 minutes, it will not be subject of discussion. In fact, the paper, it will be very important for his constituency. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much. I see he has noted the agreement. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 29th June 2023. Report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the draft charter for the Open University of Kenya. Madam Speaker, can I proceed to move the motion?
You were laying the paper, weren't you?
Yes.
Pass it there. Yeah. Okay, you've done so, Honorable Chairman.
I-
You want to give notice of motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the draft charter for the Open University of Kenya laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 29th June 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24(1) of the Universities Act 2012, approves the award of charter for the Open University of Kenya. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right, honorable members, I now call upon the honorable member for Kawanjiko. I can see you didn't want to contribute? I saw your name on the list. Okay, the Honorable Karoli Amondi, member for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the establishment of the Peace Fund. I think Leo Tolstoy once said, the problem with an idle army is abundant idleness. And I think it is useful that our military gets engaged in international assignments. And if in that process they can also improve on the financial flows to the military, that would be a very good idea. I think this fund is long overdue because this kind of support from the UN has been available for a very long time. And I look forward to very transparent operation of the fund. I think that is why it has been isolated instead of being obfuscated in the normal military budget. It could also be a very good opportunity for our military to modernize its equipment, but also its operational procedures by constantly engaging with the United Nations in peacekeeping. It will also enhance our capabilities as a country for international diplomacy, and also to go around trying to strengthen our value systems as a country that loves peace and order. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Honorable Leader of Majority. Honorable Bui, I hadn't seen your cards, but you'll go next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support these regulations, approval of these regulations. Honorable Speaker, it's indeed true, as the chair of the Delegated Legislation Committee has said and as seconded by the Vice Chair of the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee, who is a seasoned officer in the military. And I keep telling him, Honorable Speaker, that unlike in the military, here in this House, there are rules other than the standing orders that they had in the military. And I am happy that the Vice Chair is now accustomed to operations of the House. The last Parliament, he had difficulty settling down in the House as opposed to what he was used in the military. But, Honorable Speaker, the Vice Chair will tell you that indeed, it is indeed true that over time, our country has been losing its premier status in the region as one of the countries that contribute immensely to the United Nations and other regional forces, even those for the AU, because one, we have very good and disciplined officers in our army, but the equipment with which they work with, some of the equipment may not be as good as it ought to be. Some were acquired when Major Bashir was still in the army. And you can imagine now that he has been out of the army for this long, and they are still using the same equipment that Major Bashir used when he was in the army, and also the Honorable Raso. Honorable Speaker, it then becomes important because when our officers, our very disciplined and good officers serve, either in the UN or other regional forces, like those that are serving in Somalia, those that are serving in DRC, Congo, we, in a way, also benefit as a country because if you are serving in the UN also gives money to pay for equipment, to pay for the officers' allowances when they are there. And you know, many officers who are serving in our military occasionally lobby very aggressively to serve in these units that are serving outside the country because it also becomes beneficial for them. And therefore, when the country loses such opportunities on account of us not having modern equipment, you have vehicles that are rickety and a little bit older than they ought to be, and also you don't have continuous training and capacity building for officers, then we also lose as a country. It's also important, Honorable Speaker, to have a separate fund for this money, because whenever money is contributed, for instance, from the UN and it goes into the consolidated fund, and it finds members of parliament demanding for CDF disbursement, or gracious ladies, women reps demanding for their GAF money, or even governors, Honorable Speaker, demanding for money to be disbursed to their constituencies, to their counties, or even, Honorable Speaker, that money comes at a time when public debt is up or due for payment. Then, and that money is in the consolidated fund, there is no way of distinguishing or creating a distinction between what money ought to go to the peacekeeping missions or that which should go to debt repayment. And you may find that this money may get into one pot in the consolidated fund and end up paying part of our debt. Others goes towards the settlement of our other national obligations, and leaving then our military officers in the state that I have just mentioned to operate with equipment that is almost obsolete. We leave them in a state where they are not doing capacity building. And basically, Honorable Speaker, you know, when our young men and women serving us in the military are out there in the bush, fighting to restore peace in the areas where they have been given work to restore peace, Honorable Speaker, they serve under very strenuous and difficult conditions and in an environment where we should not be putting them under any strain or stress, even for their families back home. Honorable Speaker, it's therefore important to have these funds in a separate fund where, one, we can ensure that they are able to access this money as fast as they need it, if it is to buy equipment, if they need money to equip the officers, if they need money to feed the officers out in the field, they have readily available cash. And therefore, it's important to have a separate fund, and I do support the establishment of this fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, we have served, or rather our military has served in very many jurisdictions, from Bosnia to Somalia, and now in the region in DRC, Congo, and still a good number of them still in Somalia. And we are in a region, Honorable Speaker, where today our neighbors in the Sudan have problems. Honorable Speaker, as neighbors and as African brothers, we have a duty and a responsibility as neighbors to our neighboring countries to ensure there is peace in those countries, Honorable Speaker. And I would really appeal to the warring factions in the Sudan. We may not need to strain our regional forces, looking for forces to go and bring about peace, because it is all about politics in the Sudan, and I really appeal to the generals fighting there to consider the plight of millions of the Sudanese people who today are suffering, some are dying, and we've seen reports in the media with bodies all over the streets of Khartoum. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, because I see time is over, may I support as I plead with our generals in our neighboring countries to maintain peace, so that we do not also have to strain our forces to send them to other countries besides the countries that they're already in. With those many remarks, I support.
The Honorable Junet Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to oppose these regulations. Madam Speaker, we are becoming a country that is going to be run through funds, special funds. Every small thing that we want to do in this country, Madam Speaker, we want to create a fund for it. Madam Speaker, it is very dangerous to govern a country through subsidiary legislations. Madam Speaker, peacekeeping missions never started in this country yesterday. It never started with Somalia. It never started with Sudan. It never started with any other place. It has been there since independence. Actually, this country is known for peacekeeping missions. They have done very well. Our soldiers have done very well. They have developed countries which were in turmoil and brought them back to peace. But Madam Speaker, when you see people doing funds like the way we are doing here now, there is always a fishy element in it. There are people who are targeting that money in a certain way. We have been here for some time. We know. These monies, we are budgeting, we are appropriating over 400 billion shillings every financial year to the Ministry of Defense. And they have been using that money very well. It has been audited. It goes through the auditing system. It goes through the Public Accounts Committee system. And they have been presenting their papers and their documents in Parliament. And they have been, all the time, they have been given a clean bill of health. Why create a special fund? Why do you create a fund if the people who are managing those funds have been doing very, very well for the last 5 years? When you create a fund like the NGDC, like GAF, you can understand, because those are special situations and circumstances that require direct intervention at the grassroots level. What are you intervening here? If you are given new equipment that you need to use, you can take them to the barracks. The military can handle those equipment. If you get funding, take it to the consolidated fund and we appropriate it directly to the Ministry of Defense. And then at the defense level, the accounting people there can use it on what is required for that money. Madam Speaker, I want to urge the House, let us desist this urge from the executive all the time to create special funds for special purposes. These special vehicles is going to hand this country one time. And you will remember my statement on this house, in this house, Madam Speaker. Because these are separate entities that are removed from the State Department so that they can be operated separately under supervision of certain people. Madam Speaker, it is my humble request that let us allow the Ministry of Defense to operate as the way they have been operating for the longest time that is known. We have never seen any peculiar audit query. We have never seen any serious misappropriation of funds. We have never seen any wrongdoings in their accounts, in their books. Why should we go this way, Madam Speaker? So I want to urge the House that let us not be a country that operates through special funds. Every small thing we want to do, we want to create a special. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I oppose.
The Honourable Member for Kadiani, Honourable Bui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the formation of this PFM National Peace Support Operations Fund for the Ministry of Defense. And first, I want to thank the Committee of Delegated Legislation. I'm a member of that committee. I've grown up in the military barracks of Kahawa and also Waterworks. And that is why I'm highly disciplined, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is very timely, Madam Speaker, because first and foremost, the fund is not requesting for a lot of money from the Exchequer. I think it is only about $1 billion. And then the additional amount will be about 6 billion. So the total amount in that fund will be about 7 billion. Madam Speaker, this is for purposes of enabling Kenya to be able to participate appropriately and properly in peacekeeping missions. Madam Speaker, historically Kenya has been participating in these peacekeeping missions, but over the years, some of our neighboring countries, much smaller than us, even with smaller economies, have overtaken us as a country in participation. And one of the reasons is because we do not have enough equipment, we do not have modern equipment. Madam Speaker, this fund will help us in the following ways. One, it helps our members of our troops, troops in the military, to be able to participate and actively get involved in peacekeeping missions. That keeps them physically fit, and it also helps them to keep abreast of modern warfare. Because, Madam Speaker, if we can keep troops in the barracks forever, and then one time, by God forbid, we get attacked from somewhere, if they haven't been practicing, they will not be able to keep up. But now, this is one way by which we keep our troops busy, because they are constantly out there participating. Madam Speaker, when Kenya participates in peacekeeping, or any country participates in peacekeeping, there are payments that are made for two things. One, the personnel, the other one is the equipment. Now, Kenya has been benefiting from the personnel, but the money that is paid to the personnel is paid directly to the participating soldiers. So nothing comes to the government, but the equipment is also supposed to be paid for.
But what they do is that they look at the quality of equipment that you're taking out there. So if the quality of equipment is almost obsolete like Kenyans is, then they will not be paid for it. So in essence, we are sending troops with obsolete equipment, and we get money for the troops, and we get almost nothing as a country. So it's important that we be able to invest in this fund. Now, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the fund also enables the Ministry of Defense, will enable the Ministry of Defense to ring-fence the money that is paid for purposes of peace support. Because what happens is that the little money that we receive as a country is received and goes to become part of the consolidated fund. That means when the military requires to procure equipment, they must go there with a budget and request. And like Majority Leader has said, many are the times when there are too many competing interests for the little money, and so they end up not getting the money back. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important that we ring-fence this by providing them with a fund so that their money can go to that fund, and whatever money that is paid, they can always be able to access it and use it and roll it over even beyond the financial year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, my only concern would be if there would be any issue of corruption. And Mr. Speaker, as I've said, I know the military is one of those departments that has been very clean when it comes to matters of prudent use of public resources. And I believe that Kenya's military, which was grown long time ago by my grandfather, the late Honorable General Jackson Kimeu Mulinge, can continue with the spirit of discipline that they had, and we do not want to hear of any corruption cases. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Very well. Before we have the next speaker, let me acknowledge, and in the public gallery this afternoon, Murindu Highway Primary School from Gilgil, Nakuru. Remember, members, speaking on this motion, every member shall have 5 minutes, and the next to speak on this is Honorable Gitonga Murungara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was the first one to log in, so really I'm entitled to this. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation as regards the establishment of this military fund, which, in my view, is very important. First and foremost, Honorable Junet is not here. I would have informed him that policy decisions of a government are run through subsidiary legislation. You cannot run policy decisions based on the Constitution or on acts of parliament, because the Constitution itself makes a provision. The Act of Parliament provides how that provision is to be executed, and regulations actually do now carry out how the policies of that particular provision are to be enforced. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with the provisions we are dealing with now through a delegated legislation decision to establish a fund for our military. As it has been said, our military has been involved in very many peacekeeping missions. In fact, many people have been saying Kenya has a professional army, and sometimes they try to belittle that army, but the strength of the force is actually felt when we go out there to enforce peace missions, whether in Bosnia, Herzegovina, Liberia, Somalia, or anywhere else in the world. Most important is the fact that there are some monies that are received from the international community as regards the peace missions we hold. And when that money goes into the consolidated fund, we have no way of ring fencing, we have no way of protecting the money so that it goes in for the purpose intended. We know very well that out there we do a good job. But as is going to be seen in the next motion we are going to debate, and I do not wish to anticipate debate, we are not doing very well in the country. Because of late, we have seen our soldiers being killed by terrorists all over. And it brings to question whether they are well equipped, whether the vehicles they are using are really military vehicles, or they are technicals, as they are called in Somalia, when they are doing their terrorist things. Let us ring fence this money. Let us avail it for the peacekeeping missions. Let's put the money into proper use. I do agree that there should never be any element of corruption, purification, or misuse of the money when it comes into this fund. This is a fund meant purely for the military. We know that the prisons have two funds, which funds we are told have actually been misused. And we are looking into this. And we'll also look into this if there is any attempt whatsoever to misuse the money. Because if there is anybody eyeing this money meant for the military, may he be warned that this House will be on the alert and we shall be dealing with it. Mr. Speaker, allow me to support. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Wilberforce Oundo Funyola.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this motion. That is the Public Finance Report, or the motion Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund, Regulations 2023. Honorable Speaker, I really have no objection to the fund, to the creation of the fund, but as I will reiterate later, is the issue of management, the issue of corruption, and the issue of misuse. Honorable Speaker, all over the world, especially when you go to the US, the military are accorded a lot of respect. Military men and women are exalted to an extent that are given priority even when they go to board flights or in shops everywhere. And that's the kind of respect and esteem accorded to the military in those other parts of the world. Unfortunately, in this part of the country, in Kenya, we do not really value our military as we ought to, in spite of the fact that they do so much for us internationally and locally. Honorable Speaker, the issue at hand here is the so many funds that are being created. The justification being given is to ring-fence funds given as reimbursement for used equipment and provide funds to support peacekeeping missions all over the world. However, Honorable Speaker, we hope and do hope that the national government or the executive does not intend in any way to find means and ways of probably defeating or avoiding the applications of the Public Finance Management Act in the management of the various affairs of this country. It would seem the idea here is that to create a separate fund so that you avoid the provisions of the PFM Act. We just hope that's not really the intention, but just being done out of merit to ensure that we have funds readily available to support. Because the call for peacekeeping is never budgeted for. It can come anytime. And therefore, on that account, we would need a dedicated account to make sure that we support our soldiers wherever they go. Honorable Speaker, of course, the issue of preparedness of our soldiers has always been has been a point of discussion. Many times, you find our soldiers have been killed, like what happened in Somalia. We report every day our soldiers being killed in operations, even within this country. As you reported last week, there were many that were killed in Lamu. Again, it was also reported along the Garissa Road, there was an ambush. This brings into question, are our military very well trained? Are our military very well equipped? Are our military very well resourced with information in terms of intelligence information to avoid falling into traps with ragtag armies like Al-Shabaab? This is the kind of discussion we just hope and pray that this fund we are creating and the contribution will come from UN or whichever body will continuously improve. First of all, the equipment our soldiers are given to protect their life as they protect our life, and secondly, to improve morale of our people our soldiers as they do their work. Honorable Speaker, this is an important matter that requires serious consideration. When any case will be subject for audit, we just pray and hope it has not been earmarked for somebody else to manage the same. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable John Kawanjiku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill, and especially whereby we agreeing with the chairman or the leader of the delegated committee that we need to consolidate funds for the national peace support operation. So that at least, Mr. Speaker, when our young people, our brothers, our sisters go outside there for peacekeeping purpose, they'll be able to be taken care of. And especially when the fund is addressing very critical issues, because the moment they go to fight, the moment they go to DRC, like now they're in DRC Congo, we have sent the same military people, we have sent them to Somalia to try and help even our neighbors in ensuring and also making sure that, they coexist with each other. We must also make sure that we create a fund that will be able to take care of them. It is quite unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that you realize even if they go to DRC and maybe some are injured, there is no fund to take care of them. And I therefore support to make sure that we separate the operations of the military and the operations of the whole defense system by these peacekeeping missions and support and the people who are going for peacekeeping, so that at least they can have a special attention. Because with the way that this country has been managed for many years, you realize, Mr. Speaker, if we put that resources under the same bracket with the normal operations of the KDF, you realize that these people may be disadvantaged, because the process of making sure that they get equipment, the process of making sure that they are well taken care of is so tedious and bureaucratic, Mr. Speaker. I therefore support and I insist that we have seen incidences whereby, even after some times that the money has been put aside, the issue of corruption must be dealt with. We must make sure that the people who benefit from this fund are the normal people, are the same people who go outside there for peacekeeping. And as my colleagues are saying, we have not had incidences in our country whereby we have to use the military. We have been having so old equipments that some even from 1990, from 1982 coup, we have not experienced any military issue within our country. So you may realize that even they don't understand or they even don't know whether these equipments can really function in case of any external aggression within our country, Mr. Speaker. We don't know whether we have the military capability to deal with this external aggression, Mr. Speaker. And I therefore support, let these people go outside there, let them gain the experience even of how to fight the war, because in our country we haven't had those incidences. And number two, we are able to upgrade their equipment so that in any case that they go and come back, those equipment can continue to be used within our nation, within our boundaries of our country, Mr. Speaker. And we must put, strict measures that this fund must be well taken care of, Mr. Speaker. The issue of corruption must be dealt with, because we don't want to get ourselves into a position whereby we set aside the fund, and after we set aside the fund, that the money has been misappropriated. When these people go to fight and come back, the money that is supposed to take care of them, the money that is supposed to, to upgrade their military, equipment is not there, Mr. Speaker, because it has been misappropriated. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we must support them and make sure that we also tighten the loose areas, that in any case that money will not be used apart from the people who will go for peacekeeping, Mr. Speaker. The other thing that the bill is also, or the proposal that also is talking about, is also making sure that, we reinforce and make sure that we support and encourage as many military men. In our country, we have also got incidences whereby we have seen some serious vehicles, military people, getting attacked by the Al-Shabaab, because we have been using the same old models of vehicles. We have witnessed in Garissa, we have witnessed the other day in Ramu, Mr. Speaker, and because we don't have new military equipment that can be able to deal with the IED, the bombing, and even how to detect whatever is happening within there, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I support, we need to reinforce this amount of money and make sure that we upgrade our military people and also support them when they go for peacekeeping. I therefore support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, the Honorable Francis Sigay. The Honorable Francis Sigay Sotik is in the house. Him not deciding to be in the house. Could we have the Honorable Bashir Abdullahi Mandera? Very well. And therefore, we move to the Honorable Kibet Komingoi. Proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the regulations that have been proposed by the Ministry of Finance, the Peace Support Operation Fund that is being developed through the Ministry of Defense. The major thing, and in the major discussion that we must be discussing as Kenyans, is how updated is our military, how updated is our equipment, how trained are our officers, and what opportunities exist for our officers to be able to contribute to national development in supporting the peace missions around the world. In supporting these regulations, Mr. Speaker, we must be cognizant of the fact that we are giving opportunities to our military, and we may even include the police in future to be able to protect and offer support to the variety of situations that may arise within the global world. And in this, we will be able to provide, modernize, train, and be able to improve our military to be able to take care of themselves and be able to have the equipment ready and to be deployed. If you look at the scenarios that are happening within the country where the military has been deployed, particularly along the border of our Somali border, along the coastal region, even in Lamu as recently as last week, some of the equipment that have been deployed to those areas have actually been the equipment that do not protect our military. With this fund, we will be sure that our military will be better equipped, our military will be better trained, and therefore we will be better able to respond to any circumstances within the borders and outside the borders to be able to expose our personnel to the things that are happening and be able to contribute to the peace of the earth. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
The Honorable Joyce Kamene.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I wish to rise and support this motion that has been brought by the delegated legislation, where I am part of this committee. It is to support the National Peace Support Operation Fund. This fund will help provide support for the participation of our defense force in the neighboring countries where there is conflict. Indeed, we remember very well, and when we look back, how our defense and our military has been strong in the past years. But of recent, we find that the equipments that they use are just the old ones. And this fund will give them the innovation and the face that our defense force requires so that it can be up to the standard with the other countries. I am sure the lost glory that has been there will be rekindled when we are able to pass these operation funds for our military. And as we've had the other members contributing, we look forward to, and we pray that the ministry, the defense ministry, will make sure that corruption is not envisaged in these funds, and I rise to support. Thank you.
Very well. The Honorable Dikiri Mugambi. And honorable members, order, Dikiri. Honorable Dikiri, I can notice that you are not actually appearing on the screen, so check your cards if you want to speak on this. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this proposal that has been brought by the Committee on Delegated Legislation, and want to state that this is one of the best ideas that has come, and it has come the right time. Madam Speaker, Kenya is known internationally as a peacekeeping nation. Mr. Speaker, I study as the president of Good Governance and Democracy, and Mheshimiwa Kakai is the president of peace and security on the 12 countries that form the Great Lake Region Conference of Parliaments. And one of the items that has come up during our meetings, like the last meeting that we had in Juba, is that all the forces that are sent to DRC, that are sent to Somalia, that are sent to Sudan, they are ill equipped. And therefore, from that perspective, it is my statement that we need to support this initiative of creating a special fund. There is nothing wrong with this fund. I could agree, I could not agree. The management of the fund could be an issue. But I think Kenya has reached a point where now we need to be prepared as a country against external aggression, and also when we are called upon by the international community to offer peace services, we need to be prepared. Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about peace support system, we are not only referring to the KDF, because it's a whole chain of other support factors that the people on the ground require. Mr. Speaker, you also know when there is a peace mission, it's a combination of KDF, regular even police services. They are offer civilian support, who offer support for them. And it becomes very difficult sometimes if they are tied by the strictness of the supply chain. So it's my conviction, Mr. Speaker, that these people, they require a fund that they can directly control and account for. Mr. Speaker, I lost relatives in the infamous tragedy in Somalia. I lost 2 relatives and I lost a neighbor. And they told me this attack happens at night. And he said, the guys who were there, the people who came, they said one of the weaknesses that they have is nice night surveillance equipment. These people require serious technology updates. They require transport equipment, which are modern equipment. They require training. They require monitoring equipment, which are essential for their operations. Mr. Speaker, it is common knowledge when you see some of our equipment moving along the roads, you realize these are not modern equipment. The only thing that causes people to panic is the color mentally. But the suitability of this equipment is not the best. So, Mr. Speaker, it is my conviction that this fund, if well utilized, is going to cause serious preparedness of our mentally, of our peacekeeping forces, which include even the police and the civilian, and if it is used properly, it's going to be of value to the services. If Jonette was here, I would have asked him, peace mission is not done in Isili, where they walk in and out. It is out there. And I asked him to change his mind because he's going to be a victim from the other side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order? Though he's already finished. So
It's a member in order of trying to profile Honorable Junaid by talking about peace mission in Isli. I mean, he was giving some eloquent contribution to the thing, but you see, in order now to impugn, to profile somebody who is not even here. Mr.
Very well, but it's already done, and therefore I'm not sure that you are the next one. You are actually the next one to speak on this, so proceed and speak.
Thank you.
Instead of having a point of order.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion on the National Peace Support Operations Fund. The most important thing is that the creation of this fund is going to help us fund these peace operations. You are aware, Mr. Speaker, that we do not budget for peace operations. These are emergency things. These are things that just come. And as a member of the nation, of United Nations and member of African Union, this country partakes in peace operations. Actually, we are the premier peacekeeping country in our region. So I support the formation of this National Peace Support Operations Fund. The second thing, Mr. Speaker, is I would like this fund not to be domiciled only in the military, because peace operations is not about only the military. In most of the peace operations we have sent combined forces like the police. We have sent even prosecutors in some countries to help them prosecuting crimes. So as we think about operationalizing this public finance, this National Peace Support Operations Fund, we should also be thinking of having people from the other disciplined forces in the membership of whether we are creating a board or whatever entity is going to operate this fund. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Very well. The Honorable Beatrice Adagala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also want to talk about this bill. I want to support the delegated committee about it, because keeping in mind, Mr. Speaker, sir, the military do a lot of work, and especially when they go out to keep peace, they need to be equipped with the current and modern equipments and other things that are needed, and especially about their welfare. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill is the right bill, and I'm very sure I want to support it strongly so that the military can be comfortable when they go out to do other duties, like when they leave their families too behind, they must be catered for. So this is a good, noble idea by the delegated committee. I think this fund is important like any other funds. We have the CDF, we have the GAF, we have all sorts of funds. So this is timely. Mr. Speaker, we have to support this bill. I stand here supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable Charles Nchonke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support this motion for the Public Finance Management National Peace Support Operations Fund regulations, and as published under legal notice number 58 of 2023. I invite us, Mr. Speaker, to think of Kenya, which is known to be the first in many respects. Kenya has the best athletes internationally. Kenya is a superpower, economic superpower in the region. People come here to study our economic systems, our financial systems, our governance, the way we run our public affairs. Many of the young nations in the region have come here to learn how we do it. So much has been given to Kenya. So to those much has been given, much is expected. Can you think of a situation of a superpower, regional superpower, Kenya that is, call upon to discharge an obligation in a peace mission, and we say we cannot? We know that we are very good men and women in our forces. So what sometimes lets us down is the equipment, and we have an opportunity of addressing this matter. This is not the first time that we'll be creating a fund. Funds have been created. We have over 200 funds in this country, and we have the technology, we have the knowledge of putting in place systems, internal controls, and everything else to ensure that these funds are properly managed. In any case, these regulations come under the auspices of the Public Finance Management Act, which has got enough safeguards of all public funds. This is just like any other public fund, and therefore, if there are any weaknesses that are going to be noticed along the way, unfortunately, in public financial management or accounting or financial management, sometimes the controls come to after the bad things have happened. But that's not to say we cannot create any funds to be able to be more efficient in providing the technology, the logistics, the equipment that our forces require. Now, if Kenya is first in many respects, and we want to retain that status, we must pay a price for that, so that whenever we are called upon to go and provide services in a peace mission, we should be ready. We should not just be ready with the men and women who are well trained, but we must give them the equipment. You can't go to war without equipment. And this fund seeks to serve that purpose, and we cannot deny them that. Besides, we are putting regulations around to govern this so that whenever it's required, it's done properly, and that the money is properly accounted for efficiently, so that we don't have men going and the equipment, or men not able to go to the battlefield without equipment. So with those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support that we approve these regulations. Thank you.
Very well. Next to speak on this is the Honorable Paul Nabuin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support the motion. Mr. Speaker, our military has done very well in the peace missions that have already taken place. The recent peace effort in DRC, the feedback that we get from there is great to our military, because there is positive, there has been a positive effort in trying to create peace and, bring harmony in some parts of DRC as the most recent. So in support of this fund, it is important that the military, in the effort to carry out these missions, as colleagues